Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of 360 Comics. Joe here, and I just want to tell you guys how appreciative I am of all the comments and messages that I got while I was sick. You guys are awesome. I appreciate that support while I was stuck in bed, but I'm feeling much better now, and I've got a great video for you today. I've got a list of 10 comic books to talk about that I think are a little undervalued and definitely have some speculation potential when it comes to the MCU. Before we hop into this list, I just want to announce our 1,200 subscriber giveaway here on YouTube. We've got a copy of Alpha Flight number 1, the first book of their solo run, as well as the first appearance of Puck and many others, and just an all-around great book from the Copper Age. If you want to win this, all you've got to do is hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. You'll get an entry for this video as well as every other video that comes out until we hit our 1,200 subscriber mark. Then I'm going to pick a random comment from one of those random videos, and that person will win this book. All right, let's get down to business here. Kicking off the list of MCU speculation books, we've got Fantastic Four, number 245, and this book has connections to another book that I mentioned in previous videos. That book would be Fantastic Four Annual number 6, the first appearance of Annihilus, and probably more importantly, the first appearance of Franklin Richards. Now, a lot of people have mentioned this book. I know Very Gary mentions it quite a bit. It's one of his big spec books. He has a ton of copies of it. I only have 2, but this book connects to that because this is the first appearance of Franklin Richards as an adult taking on the name Avatar. And, with the MCU and the longevity of how long it's going to last, we're going to definitely have to see characters, develop and go on to different things. We have not even seen any of the Fantastic Four yet. People are already speculating on Franklin Richards, who certainly won't come along right away. I'm thinking a little step ahead and picking up a book like this, the first appearance of Franklin Richards as an adult, as the character Avatar. This is kind of definitely far in the distance, and it's going to be a while till we'll even possibly see a character like this, but it's a very low value spec. Same thing with the next book on this list. In the same vein as the last book, we've got Fantastic Four number 376. This again is the first appearance of a future Franklin Richards as an adult. This time he takes on the name Psylord. It's got a really awesome cover in my opinion as well, and this book you can find in dollar bins. In fact, I found this copy in a dollar bin just a couple months ago, and I picked it up. You really shouldn't pay more than $2 or $3 for it. It is a very cheap book, but it does have some potential given that we're definitely seeing the Fantastic Four soon. A lot of people think we'll also see Franklin Richards once they show up, and just the longevity of the MCU depends on developing these characters. If these characters aren't going to stick around and develop, and we'll see other versions of them like Psylord and Avatar, the MCU is eventually going to die off. We don't want that to happen, so this is definitely a long play, but it's a very low buy-in opportunity, and for that reason, it ends up on this list. I've mentioned multiple times recently how Marvel and Disney are trying to expand the Spider universe, which I think is really important so we don't get stuck with the same villains over and over and over again. It's great that they brought back some older villains for some nostalgia's sake in Spider-Man No Way Home, but they need to branch out from here. And they're doing so in both the Spider-Man movies, which apparently we're going to get another 3 Tom Holland movies, and I give that a thumbs up because they've been great so far. But we're also getting an animated series, Spider-Man Freshman Year, that's going to be a little bit more of his humble beginnings. I think more of his street level stuff. Now, in my last video, I did mention the Prowler as a possible villain that could come in that universe, as well as possibly a Prowler appearance in the Miles universe once that does hit the big screen, outside of the live action big screen. But anyway, this next book is a Spider-Man villain who's been around for a long time. Debuted in this issue in 1977. I believe this is Amazing Spider-Man 167. This is the first appearance of Will-O-the-Wisp. This is still a very affordable key issue. You can pick it up. I think it's probably in like the $15 to $20 range for a decent copy. Obviously, you're going to pay more for higher grade from the Bronze Age. Like I said, 1977. It's a pretty old book. But definitely keep an eye out for this one. And if you could pick it up on the cheap, I definitely would, because this is a character that they could totally utilize in the MCU. I think he's a pretty cool and underrated character. Lots of good visual effects with him, and I could definitely see it happening. This book, if you look at the books kind of around it in this run that are more major keys, are worth significantly more. This one's still on the lower end because the character, frankly, isn't super popular yet, but definitely one that could be utilized in future MCU projects. So for that reason, keep a lookout. Another potential Spidey villain here, we've got Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 99. In my opinion, this is the best cover in this run, and honestly, probably one of my top 20 favorite covers ever. It didn't quite make my top 10 list, but it was definitely up for consideration. We've got the second appearance and first cover appearance of the Spot. And there was a little bit of speculation behind this character concerning Spider-Man, the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, which now we know is called Across the Spider-Verse. I have not heard a lot about this character and that speculation recently. That was months and months ago that we heard that, and no hint in the trailer or anything. I think that was probably just total, someone just throwing something at a wall and hoping it sticks. Doesn't seem like it was anything. I could be wrong. They could be keeping it under wraps, and this character could be showing up in Across the Spider-Verse. Either way, I think this character has some potential. Like I said, this book, well, the book before, rather, his first appearance, it heated up a lot. It's cooled down a little bit. This book didn't move nearly as much, being that it's the second appearance, but it's also the first cover appearance. And I'm a big fan of first cover appearances, especially if it's an early appearance as well, like this second appearance. Now, this character could be used for Into the Spider-Verse. Definitely would be really cool in an animated sense, but could also be a live action character. I think that'd be a little bit harder to pull off given the Spot's particular abilities. That being said, it could show up in either, but either way, I just think this is a great cover and an underrated book at that, and for that reason, it's on the list. Switching gears now from Spider-Man over to X-Men, we've got issue 64 from that original Silver Age run that ran from issues 1 to 66 before they took a little break. And this book, I think it's super undervalued. I have for a long time. We've got the first appearance of Sunfire, a character that I also think is very undervalued, underutilized. He's appeared in a couple of the animated television shows, including the 1990s X-Men animated series, and other than that, nothing. A couple maybe video game appearances, but no live action movie appearances. Definitely a character that needs to be on the screen. A really cool character, but not a super popular one yet. Definitely could be, especially with what Marvel Studios is doing with diversity and trying to give everyone, a character that they can relate to. We've got an Asian character here, goes along with a lot of the other Asian characters that are building up in the MCU. We've got Shang-Chi now. Definitely could make an appearance in the Shang-Chi show. Or Shang-Chi movie, whatever we get next. I know we're getting another project. Not really sure if it's going to be television or film yet, but yeah, I just think this character's great. Starts off as a villain, moves his way to anti-hero and then hero. Really great character development there, cool powers, definitely great visuals for, a live action movie. And either way, this is a Silver Age X-Men book, and it's going to retain value pretty well. It did end up on the hot list a couple months ago, but it didn't really move in value, even given, the hot list. I've been watching, there was maybe a little bump in value around that time, but not a significant amount of movement. I picked this one up. This is like kind of a mid-grade copy that I picked up for just $100 a few months ago, and I have a graded copy as well in a mid-grade. Definitely gonna be looking out for more copies of this to pick up, because I think this is something that could really be important for the future of the MCU. For this next book, we've got another Spider-Man villain, and I almost put this in the last video I made, the one about dollar bin keys. This is certainly a dollar bin key, but I think it has some potential value. We've got Sabertooth #1 from the 1990s, a mass-printed book, but one that definitely has some potential. We're seeing a lot of the 90s #1's first appearance of a character in their own solo run going up in value. Not a lot, not, $50 or anything, but we're seeing $10, $15, $20, $25 even for those #1s of popular characters. This one seems to be pretty low still, maybe because it's got this goofy die-cut cover, which were popular in the 90s for some reason. I personally don't really like them, but yeah, Sabertooth's first appearance in Iron Fist #14 is pretty astronomically expensive. It is a hard book to find, especially in a high grade. You really can't pay less than a few $100s even for a low grade copy, where higher grade copies are multiple thousands. But this is a great option if you want to get in on a little bit of Sabertooth spec. And really, I see this book all the time for like $1 to $3, and I pick it up, and I've seen places trying to sell it for $5 to $10, but I don't think it sells there. That being said, it's a #1, but it was very highly printed from the 90s. It does not have a lot of potential to grow astronomically, but I do think if you can find this book for $1 or $2, I think that's worth it. It's nice to have, and obviously if we see Sabertooth on the big screen at some point, which I do think we'll see. I know he was in the Sony XMen movies and done interestingly a couple times, but I do think that character should return at some point to the MCU. I think that the X-Men will really benefit from that, as well as maybe Iron Fist. Maybe that's a character we see in an Iron Fist project, if that ever happens. I don't know, after the Netflix Iron Fist not doing so well, if that's really going to happen, but who knows. Anyway, a #1, pretty easy to find, very low buy-in. I like this one as a spec. In that same vein, we've got Quasar #1 from a little bit earlier in the 90s. First appearance of a character in their own solo run. This is a character that had been around for a while, since first appearing in, oh my gosh, an Incredible Hulk book, and I can't remember the number. I apologize. That book has shot up in value quite considerably at this point. It's a harder to find book. A lot of people have picked them up, as speculation for the MCU. This is a character that originally started back, I think, in the Golden Age, if I'm remembering correctly, as Marvel Boy, eventually taking on the name Quasar, and going on to have not just this solo run, but I believe multiple solo runs over the years. This was a pretty long one during the 90s with a couple key issues in there, but I specifically picked out the #1. I see a lot of people going to first solo issues if they can't afford the first appearance. So I think this is great. You can kind of pick it up in like the $5 to $10 range, depending on condition. I did find a copy in a dollar bin about 6 months ago, so they're probably still out there among, the 90s muck. But keep an eye out for this one. I really like #1s in solo series, which is why I included the Sabertooth book as well, and I think this is no exception. Now, here's a book that I've spoken about a lot. I posted about it on Instagram, and I felt like it was finally time to include it in a video now that I've got a little bit of validation behind it. We just saw recently that this character has been announced that they're coming to an action figure set that is going to be released alongside Multiverse of Madness. Could we be seeing this character in that movie? I think it's a big maybe. Not all the time when a character is featured in a toy set or a Lego set does the character translate to the big screen. It doesn't always happen like that, so you gotta be careful. But I think this is a good pickup nonetheless. Now, it has gone up a little bit in value because of that release. Fortunately, I got in beforehand, and I've been holding a couple copies of this over the last year, waiting for some kind of announcement like this, and I'm going to continue to hold these copies. I picked them up really cheap, I think for all of them for $1 to $5. I think I have a newsstand copy somewhere as well, and this character is really cool. I grew up in the 90s. This was just such a cool character from that time period that I think goes underrated and underappreciated today. We initially got kind of a little hint to the character when the name of the toy was released. I think its name was its like code name in development was Sleepy, and a lot of people speculated. Now we have confirmation it is Sleepwalker. We've seen the toy at this point, and are we going to see him in the movie? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, I think it's a great character to hold on to and see, because I think inevitably this character will show up. Like I said, they're going to be expanding the MCU. They have to keep expanding it in order to keep it alive. And Sleepwalker is definitely a great character to delve into that not a lot of newer collectors probably know about, but everyone my age and older probably remembers, and hopefully remembers fondly, from the 90s. Now, in that same exact toy collection, we've got a character, a lesser-known character called Despair, who first appears in Marvel Team-Up 68. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I've been picking up this book for under $5 for the past year. I think I have 3, maybe 4 copies of it. I think I sold one, actually. I think I sold one recently. But I've been picking these up and holding on to them just as a low value, low risk character to, possibly speculate on. The character design looks so cool, and I thought he would look great in the movies. And look at this, we're getting him in an action figure set. Again, is that for sure meaning that he's going to be in the movies? No, absolutely not. But could he be? Definitely. And either way, it's just a great book from the Bronze Age, a Marvel team-up book featuring Spider-Man and Man-Thing, a very popular character and a very popular horror character. I'm big on the horror speculation as well. Coming to the MCU, I think that's going to be part of the expansion. So this one, I like picking this up, especially if you can find it for a lower value. I looked on eBay. They have gone up quite a bit. Due to the release of this, the action figure set, or the pictures of the action figures. That being said, if you can find it in a back issue bin, it's definitely possible. I'd pick it up. All right, last up on this list is one more character in that same action figure set. We've got Rintrah. He's a giant green time-traveling minotaur, if you're not familiar with the character, who first appears in cameo in Doctor Strange 80. Now, his first full appearance is in Doctor Strange 81. That book has jumped pretty considerably in price already due to not only the action figure photos released, but also some speculation from Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, if you haven't seen No Way Home yet, I'm going to tell you, skip ahead a few minutes to the end of the video because I don't want to give anything away from you. But if you've seen it, you know that there's at the end of the movie, there's a trailer for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And in the trailer, it looks like we see a character similar to Rintrah. Looks like a very tall character, kind of green-tinged fur. Looks like there's some horns. I think it's Rintrah. Now, I also noticed during Spider-Man No Way Home, when there's rips in the multiverse, when Doctor Strange is trying to close it towards the beginning of the movie, we see some figures trying to emerge. One of them does look like a Minotaur, or at least a horned beast of some sort. I'm thinking that's a little more, another hint towards Rintrah being in Multiverse of Madness. We're going to have to see. We probably won't know until at least there's another trailer released. But I think there's been speculation on the actor as well that has been cast for this part, but I don't think there's any confirmation yet. Now, that being said, number 81, like I said, it's already gone up quite considerably in price. Number 80, a little bit easier to find. You may remember I actually found this just a couple weeks ago at a comic store for, I think I paid $3 for it. And I found it a couple months ago in a dollar bin as well. The cool thing about this is not only are they keys, number 80 and 81, they are the last two books of this run. It was canceled after issue number 81. And if you remember, I've said this before, towards the end of the runs, there are generally lower print runs on those books because, runs don't get canceled because they're doing well. They get canceled because they're not selling as much. There's not a lot of copies being ordered. So number 80 and 81 were probably ordered far less than a lot of the other books in this run. Just something to think about. I don't think it has like an exceptionally low print run because this was the 1980s and comics were very popular at the time, especially Marvel. But it's going to have a lower print run. It's also got a black cover, harder to get in higher grade, something to think about for sure. But yeah, I think this character could have a big part in Multiverse of Madness, which might be why we're getting multiple hints at the character from Marvel through trailers and figures and things like that. But we're going to have to wait and see. I would definitely not be paying top dollar for this book, especially now that we kind of know the character's coming. But if you can find it in a back issue bin, I think it's a great one to grab, hold on to, and see what happens as far as the MCU. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this little collection of books here. I tried not to include a lot of higher value ones. I try to keep it in the lower range. I think the XMen book number 64 was the most expensive book, where you can get it kind of mid-grade for between 100 and 200. The rest were honestly pretty low value, really all of them under 50 for sure, most of them under 20. So hopefully you can find some of these in the wild and it helps you build your collection as far as the future of the MCU. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up for the like, and leave a comment below. That will enter you in the giveaway where you can win an Alpha Flight number 1. And make sure you follow on Instagram as well, because we do separate giveaways on Instagram as opposed to YouTube, and there's going to be one that I'm announcing soon. Yeah, have a good one, guys, and until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.